Disarm it.
Hello everyone and welcome to American Civil War and UK history and the Unfiltered historian, and we are getting an exclusive right here, right now. I'm going to hand you over to Tyler.
All right, guys. So we got a good friend here that has graciously opened the door to the Innis House. I've done many videos before on the Innis House and talked a little bit about just what it was like, the history behind it, some of the owners, some of the damage that takes place. So now that we're here at Fredericksburg and we saw that it was open, I asked and we were given permission to go in here. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce Pete. How's it going? So do you want to tell us just a quick rundown about the Innis House before we walk inside?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
This is probably one of our more stark depictions of what went on here during the battle. A house that was witness to the fighting here, right in the middle of it. You know, some visible damage to the exterior still survives today, but the interior is really what's the most, you know, evident, where the family who decided to continue living here after the battle and also had to pay for the repairs out of their own pocket, chose to cover the bullet holes in this cosmetic separation wall with wallpaper. And when the Park Service became owners of this property in the mid-1970s, we took the wallpaper down, and now you get a very, like I said, stark idea of how many bullets were flying through the air here 159 years ago today.
That's right.
So,
well, shall we see the wall? All right, let's go. And if I remember correctly, weren't there upwards of 13 people living in here at one point when it was crammed?
So there's different folks who were in here. The Innis family, I believe, at the time of the Civil War, or the 1860 census, was a family of 4.
Okay.
Mother, father, son, and daughter. The son may or may not have been living with them. We believe that they left this house before the battle. We don't know exactly where they went, but there's no indication that they were in here, which makes sense because there's no basement or cellar for shelter or anything. And then we don't really know that there's much military use of this place because it's not going to stop a bullet.
No, obviously.
And yeah, you're not going to. There is some damage upstairs in the second floor, and there are accounts of Confederate soldiers shooting from the second floor of a sort of A building during the battle. It was never distinctly said which building it was. It could have been this building. In my opinion, that probably would have just attracted unwanted attention to you if you decided to climb up and start shooting out of the window.
Right.
When this building was acquired by the Park Service, they went through and kind of like took it apart and put it back together again. Found quite a few bullets in here, other items as well. But we have a nice cutaway section of this nicely kind of covered up lattice and framework of the house, which still bears the scars of the battle. Much of it is like that upstairs, and I think over the mantelpiece it's kind of interesting too. You know, somebody put something over this, maybe a piece of paper or whatever, painted over it. You know, and it's like it never.
Is that damage here too? We call it battle damage.
We do actually have a.
Very good. Convenient, right? So you can probably line that up with
we probably do.
Yeah, and over here on the wall, this is the real kicker.
Look, guys, look, it's a perfect fit.
Wow.
Bam.
And there's still a bullet lodged up here too, isn't there?
Right, with lodged in there like that fits perfectly.
Where are we at?
Without damaging anything.
What do you illuminate it? It's on this side, the rafter that's
This is amazing.
Do I have it?
to your left there. See that splintered portion?
Right here.
Right there is where it's kind of hard with the glare.
Yeah, it is. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, since it's a rafter and it's thicker, that actually stopped the bullet as opposed to these walls, which were pretty thin. But I find it interesting that you have, you know, all these bullets slicing through the house, right? Because
I've wondered that too. I mean, you would think, seeing how the battle is taking place more on this.
right.
How is it hitting the wall?
Yeah, why is it that side of the wall? Yeah.
Well, you
it's
have
supposed to be going that way.
bullets kind of slicing through you, right? So you look at the angle.
Yeah.
So a Union soldier down here firing a Confederate.
Left and right obliques.
Yep.
Exactly. So, but if you think about it, if this is an interior wall that has that amount of damage, the exterior of this place must have just been shredded, right?
Right.
That's why they had to replace the siding, whereas this could be covered up. You also have to remember at the Second Battle of Fredericksburg, when the Union breakthrough occurs in this vicinity, and you could have Confederates on the length of the wall firing down this.
So it could be from second Fred.
Possibly, yeah. There's no way to tell which one's which for sure.
And I take it, so the lady that lived here, was she here during the battle?
The family apparently left, but afterwards they decided to continue living here. Hence, they did some repair work. And then there were various occupants of this structure over the years. There was a woman living here up until the 1970s. Her name was Mrs. Toombs. She had a TV antenna up on top here, and she apparently was very frustrated with all the people who would peek in her windows or knock on her door asking to see the bullet holes. And there's a letter that the superintendent of the park secretary took from Mrs. Toombs, where she declared that if someone else knocked on her door late at night, she would show them bullet holes in something other than this house. And that's about the time that the owner of this property, which was not this woman, but I think a local doctor, he then made an agreement with the Park Service to have it transition over to the federal. And then Mrs. Toombs had to move out.
There you go.
And no one was harmed in the process of all that.
I love it. Well, Pete, thank you so much for inviting us in today. This was a great thing, and I'm really happy that you guys got to actually see this as well, especially the folks that weren't able to make it to the battlefield today. But, you know, come to Fredericksburg and peer through the windows and see the damage that still remains here in town, especially at the Innis House along the wall. So thank you guys again for joining. We appreciate you watching, and we will see you again for the next one. Thank you, Pete.